In this lesson, we'll quickly take a look at MEL scripting in Maya. So MEL, M-E-L, Maya Embedded Language, is sort of what happens behind the scenes as we work here in Maya. Now we can see what's going on if we come down to the bottom right and open up the script editor. And this will give you sort of a running look at what's actually happening. So let's keep an eye up here, and I'll start to bring in a cube. I'll grab the cube and move it in the Z, in the Y, kind of rotate it around, scale it up, and you can see that as I do all of this, you can see that every command is reflected here in our script editor. So you can see here, here's one of the move actions that we did. Here's another one, the rotation in here. So all of this is actually reflected in our script editor. And so what we can do is actually begin to execute and write scripts ourselves to run. And so we can do this in this line right in here, in the command line, or if we have multiple lines that we want to run, we can actually run them from the script editor. So this bottom part is where we would actually type those out. So for instance, if I went ahead and created another cube, I'll just have this cube selected. Let's say that I want to move this cube. Well, I can come in here, and if you remember, this is the command. So if you just want to look at what you've run before, you can kind of see the format. You've got a flag here, /r relative, and then you've got 3 numbers here. So X, Y, and Z, and then you close it using a semicolon. So for instance, if I wanted to move this cube, we could say move, and we'll add that same flag. And then let's move it, we'll move it 2 units in the X. So we'll say 2, 0, because we don't want to move it in the Y, and 0 again, because we don't want to move it in the Z. End that with a semicolon. We'll hit enter, and you can see that cube moves, and you can see the script that's executed here. So if you have single commands that you want to execute, you can do those straight from the command line, but we can also start to work here in the script editor. So if we do it in the script editor, we can come into line 1 here and say move, and you can see it sort of italicizes and turns blue because it recognizes that as a legitimate command. And then let's say we want to move it down in the Y, so 0 in the X, and then -2 in the Y, and then 0 in the Z. We'll end that. Now in order to execute this, we can highlight it, and then I'm just going to Control Enter to execute that, and you can see it executed that. If you want to make this text a little bit bigger, make it a little bit more readable, we can Control Scroll to make that a little bit bigger so it's a bit easier to read. If you want to find out sort of the formatting of a command, there are a few things that you can do. We could come in here and say help, and let's say we want to learn more about revolve. We can go revolve. Okay. And let's go ahead and run that, and you can see that we can get all of the flags that are available with revolve. So for instance, if I want to specify an axis, I can use this -AX flag, and you can see all of the flags that you can use with that revolve command, and you can also see the format. So use revolve, then your flags, then your string, which would be the numbers for the axis, just like we use with move. So if you have a command that you want to learn about, you can do that here. You can also go under help and go to the Maya command reference, and that'll bring up this window where we can come in and type in a command, and this will also give us a lot of information about that particular command. It'll also go through and explain what all the flags do. Okay, so you've got the types of flags that you're able to add along with the strings, and then each individual flag you can go through and see what that actually does. All right. So let's set up a script here, and I'm going to delete this cube, and I'm going to turn on this layer. So we have a curve here, and this is just called curve. And let's say we want to revolve this curve. So in our script editor, we'll type in revolve, and let's put the flag in AX, and we'll specify our axis. So these are going to be Boolean type operations where we put in either a 0 or a 1. We want it to revolve around the y-axis, so that's going to be where our 1's going to be. So we'll put in 0, 1, 0. So it's only revolving it around the y-axis. Let's end that with a semicolon, and we'll execute it. And you can see that that does revolve that around. Let me turn on two-sided lighting. So it creates our nice piece of geometry there. If instead of having a 1 here, we had it in the X, so change that to 1, and then selected our curve, ran it again. Oops. Select that again. If I can hit the right button. There we go. You can see that it's revolving it around now the x-axis, which in this case isn't what we want, but depending on how your curve is created, you know, if it's created more along these lines on a different axis, then you may want to spin it around the x-axis. So it's not always going to be the y-axis, but you can change that by putting that value into your revolve script. Now, what if we want to start to do more than one thing at a time? Well, we can use multiple lines. So we'll do revolve -AX, and we'll revolve it around the y-axis. We'll hit enter, and then we'll go to move-R, and let's say each time we do this we want to move it 10 units in the X, 0 units in the Y, 0 units in the Z. Okay, so now with this selected, we can select both of these and execute those together, and you can see it revolved it and then it moved it. And so that allows you to start to put together multiple different commands. Now we can also randomize the movement within a particular range. So for instance, if we wanted to, instead of just moving it 10, we wanted to kind of randomly put it somewhere, we could say rand, and then we'll put in a range. So let's say 10 comma minus 10. So that'll put it somewhere between 10 and minus 10 units in the X. We'll close that off with parentheses, and then we'll close the whole rand off. So this whole thing is taking the place of that X. So let's select this, select our curve actually, and then we'll select the whole thing. And so you can see it puts it right there. If we were to do this again, and run that again, you can see it places it in a slightly different position along that x-axis. And you can place this rand along the, replace the y value or the z value to create that randomly. Okay, so that's just a quick look at creating some simple Mel scripting. In the next lesson, let's take a look at how we can start to create custom shelves to access things a little bit quicker. And we can actually incorporate some scripting with that too and create our own shelf buttons. So let's do that next.